Caregiving can sometimes feel like an impossible struggle. Caregivers may be torn between taking care of loved ones and trying to maintain balance in life. The good news is that it doesn't have to be that way. The Caring Generation with host Pamela D Wilson is here to focus on the conversation of caring. You're not alone. In fact, you're in exactly the right place to share stories and learn tips and resources to help you and your loved ones. So now, please welcome the host of The Caring Generation, Pamela D Wilson.
This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert, speaker, consultant, and guardian of the Caring Generation. Thanks for joining me for this week's show. It is episode 215. Before we jump into this week's topic, which is care of elderly, A to Z, if you find this podcast helpful, please like it and follow it on your favorite podcast app. Your participation through likes and follows helps the show reach more people worldwide looking for hope, help, and support for their health, or when caring for aging or elderly parents, spouses, children, or other family members. This week's podcast, Care of Elderly A to Z, focuses on a variety of topics that will take us through the alphabet from A to Z, 26 letters. When trying to come up with a topic for this week's podcast, I thought it might be fun to find articles from my website that correspond with A to Z. So stay with me for the show as there is something for everyone to know and learn. The learning will come when you actually visit my website, PamelaDWilson.com, go to the Media tab, next, the Caring Generation podcast, and scroll down for this episode, number 215. Now, I will say if you're listening to this podcast on the first day of its release, it usually takes about 24 to 48 hours for that page to come up. What I want you to know, what's very, very important, is every single article, every word on my website is written by myself, based on my now experience of 25 years in this industry. There's no ghostwriters, there's no guest posts, there's nobody else writing the content. The content that you find comes from my expertise in helping caregivers and aging adults and developmentally disabled persons over the past 25 years. So, let's get started. Letter A. Letter A is for advocacy. The article for this is called 10 Tips to Advocate for Care in an Imperfect and Sometimes Insensitive Healthcare System. Caregivers tell me all the time that they struggle to work with medical personnel. Doctors, nurses, hospital staff, nursing home staff, people who schedule treatments, care community staff, Medicare, other health insurance companies. What I can tell you is that I've had the same struggles. Over the past 25 years, my staff had the same struggles. Even today, I have the same struggles. I call and I ask for something, and the person on the other line gives me information that I know is not accurate. So then I have to go to person number 2, and sometimes person number 3, and sometimes I have to get a supervisor. So probably one of the most important of the 10 tips to succeed in this article is to become likable and establish relationships with the people you want to help you. You've probably heard that old saying that you catch more flies with honey. If you want people to help you, honestly, as much as you may want to scream and yell, becoming patient and relatable and likable will get you a lot further. So check out the article, get the other 9 tips. Again, you have to go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com. Click on the Media tab, click on the Caring Generation podcast, scroll down to find episode 215. Next letter in the alphabet is B for bathing. This article is called Eliminating Fear and Turning Refusals into Agreements. If you've ever tried to convince an elderly parent with dementia or Alzheimer's to bathe, and they refuse or they say no, this article is for you. Because if you've tried to do this, you know that they say, oh, I just took a bath. Why do I need to take another shower? I just did that. Or I just changed my clothes when the clothes they're wearing have probably been on for more than 1 or 2 days. In this article, you'll find tips to help you understand why elderly parents refuse to bathe and what you can do about it. Letter C. C is for choices. Everyone has choices. A lot of caregivers tell me they didn't have a choice to become a caregiver. Caregivers tell me they're stuck. People with health problems tell me they're stuck. The article that corresponds with C for choices is, how do I accept my life choices as a caregiver? While we all have choices, sometimes the problem is that we don't like the choices that we have. And if we don't like the choices that we have, then we need to make changes in our life so that we have different and more choices. Everybody has choices. The letter D, probably no surprise, dementia. The article is called My Spouse with Dementia Doesn't Know Me. If you're a spousal caregiver, that moment when your husband or wife no longer recognizes you or is confused about who you are, maybe they think you are their father or their mother, can be heartbreaking. This forgetting can also be heartbreaking for children of a parent with dementia. So check out the article, My Spouse with Dementia Doesn't Know Me. You'll find a lot of helpful tips there. Next letter in the alphabet is E. E is for expectations. And the article is called When Aging Parents Expect Too Much. Expectation setting is a huge part of being a caregiver. Not setting expectations is one of the reasons caregivers say, I didn't have a choice. If you want to have choices, discuss and set expectations up front before you start devoting too much time to help aging parents. There can also be a lot of expectations between spousal caregivers. One spouse expects another person to give up their life to care for them, while that spouse is thinking, I expect you to take care of yourself. I'm not going to do all this by myself. Next letter F is for facility. And I use the word facility because people in the healthcare system use that term. A facility can be a hospital, a nursing home, assisted living, memory care, or a personal care home. Now, I prefer to call these places communities. The article for this one is called Discharge from Facility: Why Elderly Are Refused Care in Hospitals, Nursing Homes, and Assisted Living. If you're thinking about placing a loved one in a care community or have a loved one in a care community, this is an article you won't want to miss. Learn why older adults are discharged from facilities so that you can know your rights and advocate and have a more positive experience. Next letter in the alphabet is G. I chose this one for guardianship. I served as a professional guardian in the probate court system in Colorado from 2007 to 2018. Today, I still serve as an expert witness, and that will come up later in the alphabet. Family members, though, are often confused about what guardianship means, including the legal process of being appointed a guardian. This also comes up if you are involved with adult protective services. So, irregardless of how you heard about guardianship, you can learn more in the article on my website. In this episode 215, what does guardianship of an elderly parent mean? Alphabet letter H is for hospitalizations. The article for this one is called The Hazards of Hospitalizations of the Elderly. Why are hospitals a bad place for older people? Well, depending on your health condition or the care needs of an elderly parent, a hospitalization can really be your best friend or your worst friend. If your elderly parent is admitted to the hospital for treatment and they cannot advocate for themselves for any reason, be diligent about showing up to advocate for your parent's needs and to ask questions and to understand treatment options. It's also important to understand if your parent is on observation or if they're being admitted. Those are two different sides of the story. And I'll tell you, being in the hospital is no picnic, especially if somebody's not feeling well. So you can learn more in this article. The letter I is for I am so tired of being a caregiver, and an article by the same name. The article gives a serious and a little lighthearted look at the blessings and struggles of being a caregiver and shares experience from my years of managing care for the elderly. You can share this article with others in your family who may not understand why you're so tired all the time, why you're frustrated, why you keep asking them for help, and for others who have no idea what you're doing and don't appreciate all the work you do. Letter J is for job, specifically the article, How to Keep a Job and Care for Elderly Parents. If you are a working spouse or an adult child, you know that balancing your life and holding down a job to pay the bills can be a struggle. This article shares statistics and insights about caregivers who work and their experiences of potential job discrimination and the risks of losing a job because of taking time off work to be a caregiver for a family member. While having and raising children is acceptable in the workplace, caring for an elderly loved one doesn't quite receive the same level of acceptance or understanding by supervisors or management, even still today. So, check out the article, How to Keep a Job and Care for Elderly Parents. The letter K is for the word no. The article for this one is called Power of Attorney, What Family Caregivers Don't Know. If you are a spouse and you haven't named an agent to act for you as power of attorney agent, or if you are an adult child and your parent or parents have not created their legal documents to appoint a power of attorney agent, this article offers basic information you need to know. It's based off my experience as a professional power of attorney agent, both medical and financial for my clients. And in addition to this article, there is an entire course on my website about power of attorney. On the topic of knowing, knowledge, and wisdom, also check out my YouTube channel where you'll find over 900 videos answering questions caregivers ask. If you have a question and you want it answered, all you have to do is go to one of those videos and put a new comment in. I will see the comment and I will create a video. So you can look for me on YouTube under the name of Pamela D Wilson, Caregiving Expert. Follow my channel and you will receive notices every time I post a new video, which is at least once a week, usually more. The letter L in the alphabet is for love. The article, Why Caregiving is Exhausting Even When You Love Your Parents. Caregivers easily become exhausted with everything on a to-do list. Most caregivers, they can't say no. And so what happens is they keep saying yes, and then they become exhausted and sometimes resentful. And truly, having so much on your plate can be physically exhausting and emotionally overwhelming. If you are having days where you are mentally stressed out or exhausted, it's time to create a different plan where you invest some time for yourself. This is not being selfish. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people, and honestly, you will run yourself into the ground. Many caregivers I know have more health problems than the people they care for. Many of them say, oh, I know I should go to the doctor. And then they're diagnosed with something serious, and they're like, well, I was caring for somebody else. Don't put yourself in that position. Check out this article. The letter M is for marriage. The article, Choosing Between a Spouse or a Partner and an Elderly Parent. How many of you are couples caring for aging parents? If you are the spouse caring for a mother or father, what's the effect of you being a caregiver on your husband or wife, or your children, or your job, or your health, or your retirement, or your savings? Honestly, I could go on and on. Very important article. Choosing between a spouse and an elderly parent. The letter N is for no. And the article for this one, it's actually a podcast. It's called Caregiver Regrets. No life, no job, no friends. It's true. Caregivers can become isolated when they trade parts of their life for care tasks. What have you given up? Time for you, time with friends, time for a spouse or partner, time for exercise, time for your happy place, time for things you love, time to pursue a promotion at work, time to spend time with your kids, time to walk your dog. If you are not yet in this position, this is a very important article to read, podcast to listen to. Catch yourself before you trade too much of your life to care for an elderly loved one. The letter O is for overwhelming. The article, 10 Reasons Why Caring for Aging Parents Can Feel Overwhelming. Honestly, there's probably a million reasons why caring for aging parents can feel overwhelming. But in this article, I've captured 10 of these reasons. Number 1 on that list is that caregivers begin doing things they never imagined they would have to do. Among these, changing incontinence briefs, sometimes known as depends here in the United States, or helping an elderly parent bathe. Can be embarrassing for the caregiver and embarrassing for the elderly parent. Yet many caregivers willingly do these tasks. Letter P. The letter P has a couple of P's. It has power for power of attorney, and it has parent. So this one has actually 2 articles associated with it. The first one is power of attorney for an elderly parent, and the second one, very popular, when one sibling takes care of parents. If you have siblings and one of them is the main caregiver, and they're doing most of the work, you're purposely uninvolved because you don't have time, you're going on with your life. Well, what do you think happens when one of your siblings takes care of your parent? They establish a very close bond. They may be telling mom or dad, hey, I'm doing all this work and nobody else cares about you. We got 3 other, family members here. My 2 sisters and a brother. They're not showing up. They're not calling. I'm doing everything for you. And so in return for that, I got some expectations. Maybe I want the house. Maybe I want your money. Why don't we change your estate plan and your will so that I inherit everything and they don't inherit anything? Very important articles. Learn what you can while you can to avoid these internal issues with a sibling, internal family battles, all the things that you may not realize are going on. The only way to do that is to stay a little bit involved. Letter Q is for quit. The article for this one, great one, why do caregivers quit? So many caregivers tell me they dream of running off. They imagine walking out the door and never coming back, or getting into the car and driving off into the sunset. Sadly, some caregivers tell me that when they go to sleep, they hope that they don't wake up the next morning. Honestly, you would be surprised the number of caregivers who find me on my YouTube channel through a video that they're searching at 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning. So if you're a caregiver starting to burn out or wear out, this article is for you. Sometimes when caregivers get exhausted, they can also feel that other people are purposely doing things to irritate them. In this case, sometimes it's an elderly parent with dementia who honestly cannot control their behaviors. But all of these things happen because caregivers get exhausted. So if it's time for you to quit, you may need a caregiving exit plan. There is an article on my website about that too. Letter R is for rights. This one is dementia, human rights, and choices. So people with memory loss, especially if they have no plan and they don't have anyone to advocate for them, can be ignored by healthcare providers or the healthcare system, or even people who are supposed to be caring for them. People with dementia can suffer a lot of unintentional or intentional neglect and abuse. This is why an early diagnosis is so helpful to help you if you are the person diagnosed, or an elderly parent or another family member, make sure that you have a plan so that your wishes and your rights are documented and followed as memory loss advances. The letter S is for sibling. The article, is your sibling abusing power of attorney? There are as many good caregiving families as families who have challenges due to early parent-child relationships. Sometimes aging parents can feel responsible for an adult child who is struggling to make their way in life. Now, if that child never moves out of the house or they move out and they come back in, like I previously mentioned, your parents may appoint them as agent under medical or financial power of attorney, and they may have zero qualifications. It can be good if they know how to manage money and they know how to manage healthcare. It can be bad if they feel entitled to your parents' money or their property. So if you care about your parents, you may want to get involved to make sure that your sibling who is involved isn't taking over. The letter T is for too much. Read the article When Caregiving Becomes Too Much. This article offers 5 things to do. Having a plan and a backup plan are part of these. That can be helpful to help caregivers avoid unnecessary stress and to put timelines on caregiving. So if you're here listening to this podcast, you're way ahead of other caregivers because you know the value of education and seeking support. As a caregiver, learning opportunities, oh my gosh, they happen every day. There's always something to learn, isn't there? If you're feeling doubtful, frustrated, isolated, or lonely, again, there is so much support on your website. The links to this A to Z of Caring for Elderly Parent podcast is on my website. Go to PamelaDWilson.com, click on the media tab, the Caring Generation, and scroll down to look for episode 215. It will be up within 24 to 48 hours after this podcast airs. The letter U in the alphabet is for UTI, urinary tract infections. The article is How Urinary Tract Infections Result in Confusion. If you have an elderly parent and they've ever had a urinary tract infection, you might have noticed that they were very confused, almost like delirious or acting crazy when they had a urinary tract infection. That is very common, especially for persons with dementia. Now, drinking enough water can be supportive to flush bacteria out of a system to avoid urinary tract infections. But most older adults don't want to drink enough water. Because why? Because they have to go to the bathroom. That's the only way you flush these bacteria out of the body. So check out this article to learn about urinary tract infections, how they happen, how you can prevent them, and how these infections do result in mental confusion and delusions and even falls and delirium, which is a very serious condition for the elderly. The letter V, this was a tough one because I don't have any V caregiving words off the top of my head, although I do think of the word victim. But instead of choosing victim, I choose the word over, O-V-E-R. And this article is When an Elderly Mother Lets Her Husband and Their Family Take Over. This is important because as the number of blended families grow, getting to know your step-siblings, stepmother or father is really important if you care for your parent. While building these relationships can be uncomfortable or untimely because you've already grown up, right? Maybe you even have your own kids. And you're like, oh my gosh, now I have this other family I have to get to know. Well, having good relationships, or at least knowing your step-siblings and your step-parent, is a good idea because eventually one of these parents is going to need care. What happens then? Which children will step in? Whose money is going to pay for care? Your mom or dad's or your stepmom or dad's? If there weren't agreements before a marriage, this can get so complicated. Is there going to be money to pay for care? Who's going to do the care? What do your parents want? Letter W, I mentioned this before, it's expert witness, caregiving, home care, guardianship. This article offers background about my role as an expert witness to support individuals, families, corporations when Serious issues arise in care or caregiving situations or relationships. These can relate to neglect and abuse, neglect of duty of care, all kinds of unexpected things that happen when things go wrong. You can learn more about my background and learn about my role on this website page, Expert Witness, Caregiving, Home Care, and Guardianship. X is for toxic. It's also for exit plan. So under X, you're going to find an article called Toxic Caregiving Habits. And I'm also going to put a link to a video called How to Create a Caregiving Exit Plan. This is important because we're almost to the end of the alphabet. So I chose the word toxic in this article because of the ongoing stress that can turn into toxic habits for caregivers that really harm caregivers. So lowered self-esteem, you're in denial, you feel like people are criticizing you, or you're procrastinating or something else. Now, some of these habits can really arise because of a lack of self-care. Another toxic habit can be where a caregiver is just in a constant mode of battle, where you feel like you're fighting the world and you're giving off all of this battle energy that actually affects the way that others interact with you, including their willingness or not to be helpful and supportive. And I can tell you, as caregivers, we all need helpful people in our life. We need angels in our life. We need somebody to step in when we don't think we can keep going one day further. And if that is your situation, or before you get there, check out the link to the video, How to Create a Caregiving Exit Plan. We're down to the last two letters of the alphabet. Y is for the word why, W-H-Y. The article, Why Saying No to Caregiving is Easier Than You Think. Y is also for you. This article offers insights to help caregivers learn why they continually say yes. If you constantly say yes, is it maybe time to start saying no, to start practicing saying no to small things? Learning to say no is very good so you don't overextend yourself, exhaust yourself. Honestly, once you start saying no and setting boundaries, oh my gosh, you are going to realize how good that feels. So do not miss this article. Again, PamelaDWilson.com. Media tab, The Caring Generation Podcast, episode 215. Z. Boy, this was another one of those hard letters. So for Z, I chose the word recognize, R-E-C-O-G-N-I-Z-E. The article for this is How to Recognize Self-Destructive Caregiving Habits. And so this article does follow up on the idea of how to stop saying yes, how to avoid any toxic caregiving habits like battle energy that you may be involved in. But self-destructive habits are those that caregivers, or really anyone, falls into when you're stressed out. Or let's say that you have a goal and you just keep self-sabotaging yourself and you never achieve the goal. So let's say weight loss, right? So you're stressed. What are you craving? Sweets, salty snacks, alcohol, other types of drugs. And you're craving that because you are under so much stress. And at the same time, you may be trying to lose weight, or you want to be healthier, or you want to improve your appearance. So you're self-sabotaging yourself as a caregiver because you're under all this stress and you don't have a way to cope with the stress. So instead, you engage in a bad habit that takes you further away from really your goals and where you want to be in life. So check out that article. Please do share this podcast. Share these 26 articles. Go to my website. There is a share page, or a share button, I should say, on every single page of my website. You can press the share button. You can email the article. You can download the article. You can PDF it. You can email to other people. You can send them the links. All of these 26 articles from A to Z offer extremely helpful and practical and proven information. I know because I wrote them all. And in addition to these 26, oh my gosh, there's probably literally hundreds, and I do mean hundreds, of other articles, other podcasts. There's 215 podcasts already. There's 900 videos on my YouTube channel. There are 30 categories in my caregiving library on my website. There are 3 free courses. My book is there. Ways to schedule a one-on-one consultation is there. There is so much help and support. So please do share my website, share this podcast, share these articles with other people who are out there having a hard time, who are seeking hope, help, and support. I'm Pamela D Wilson. I am a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. You're with me on the Caring Generation podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for hanging out all the way until the letter Z. I look forward to being with you all again soon. God bless you all. Sleep well tonight. Have a fabulous day tomorrow, and enjoy each day until we are here together again.
Tune in each week for the Caring Generation with host Pamela D Wilson. Come join the conversation and see how Pamela can provide solutions and peace of mind for everyone. Here on Pamela D Wilson's The Caring Generation.